All right, this video is going to show you how to weave with raya weaving. And so before we get started, you can see that I've already got some rows of plain weave established. When you're doing a raya weave, you need to make sure you've got at least a couple rows of plain weave done to kind of hold the raya in place. And I've got a bunch of little short pieces of yarn that are close to the same length. If they're not perfectly the same length, it's okay because you can trim it after you have woven it. And you can use all of the same color. You can make a pattern. I'm gonna try a pattern, but you can use all of the same color yarn, that's up to you. So to start with, I'm gonna come to the first 2 warp strings. I'm gonna lay my piece of yarn over the top, and then I'm gonna pull one piece under, like that. And I'm gonna come to the other side and pull it through the other side. And then I'm gonna pull it down. Since I'm choosing to do a pattern, I'm gonna alternate my colors, but you can use the same color. Now I'm gonna go to the next 2 warp strings, and rather than coming to the next set of 2, I'm going to use 1 warp that I've already used and 1 new one. And I'm gonna do the same thing. It goes on top, then the pieces go around and through, and then around and through, and then you pull it down. And you can see if you do it short, you're gonna get pieces that stand up. If you make them longer, and they'll hang down more. So you can control how short or how long you want it to be. I knew that I wanted a shorter raya, so I went ahead and cut my pieces a little bit shorter, but if you're not sure, cut them a little bit longer and then you can trim them when you're finished. So I'm gonna keep going across with this pattern. The next 2, 1 that I've used and 1 new one. And I'm having a little bit of a hard time because my fingernails are really short and this is close, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick my ruler in there to separate it a little bit and see if this helps me. I know in my other videos the ruler didn't really want to stay up, and that's a lot easier now because I don't have much to work with to grab at these little thin strings. So if you have a ruler, it can make it much easier for you. Remember, you should always be doing 1 that you've already used and 1 new one as you work your way across. And again, I chose to do a pattern, but you can just use the same color, or you can use a ton of different colors and have kind of like multicolored fringe. Okay, so I've gotten to the end of 1 row with my raya, and I'm gonna come back the opposite way. This time My ruler was making life a lot easier for me with these short fingernails, but it is just not wanting to stay in there. So when you come back, you're doing the same thing, taking the first two on the right and then taking one used one and one new one every time. All right, so you can see I have 3 rows of raya here, and you can flip it up so it stands up straight. If it's short, it will poke out from the side like this. You can push it down, kind of comb it, and if you're looking at it and you use really long threads and you want it to be shorter, you can come back with scissors and you can give your raya weave a haircut. Just hold and then trim your edges however short you want it to be, so that maybe it's a little bit more even, or maybe you're changing the length completely. When you're doing that, just make sure that you don't accidentally get any of your warp strings. You should have your yarn kind of out in the air, not doing any cutting that's super close. So that is raya weaving. Remember, before you do it, you have to have a couple of basic weaving rows established, and then after you finish raya, before you want to go back, let's say you wanted to basket weave or you wanted to do another box weaving, you want to establish a few rows of a basic weave to re-establish your warp strings.